Hong Kong, a city of nearly 7.5 million, is where many people have lost all hope of owning their own home. Hong Kong's housing prices are notoriously unaffordable. This is how much the average Hong Kong family is made in a year, and this is the average price of a typical home of just about 600 square feet. It would take 17 years of family income, every penny of it, to buy such a home. Even New Zealand, which ranks as the world's second least affordable housing market, the cost of a typical home of 1,528 square feet consumes only 9 years of total income. Roughly 30% of the households within firmly established income limits are dependent on low-cost public housing. Another 20% of the households are now mortgage holders. They pay up to 60% of their family income on average to keep up to date with their mortgages. Meanwhile, more than 300,000 households are forced into private rental accommodation, often cramped, substandard, and almost always overpriced. They pay on average 40% of their income for rent. What led to the current housing crisis? Government policy contributes significantly to the problem. First off, land sale premiums that developers pay to the Hong Kong government account for 50 to 60% of the cost of new homes, the costs are passed on to new home buyers. Land sale premiums account for an important part of government revenues and is a contributing factor to Hong Kong's low income tax rate. Another factor is the government land supply policy. There were very few lands that were put up for sale over the past decade. The origin of the government's land policies date back to 1997 and the era of Tung Chee-hwa, Hong Kong's first chief executive. Housing was in short supply before the handover. Tung undertook an aggressive program to build 85,000 new houses a year. But the plan never was fully realized as a result of two major setbacks. First, the Asian financial crisis of 1997 sent home prices sharply lower. And then in 2003, SARS struck the city hard. The local economy was ravaged in the aftermath. Housing prices fell again, creating panic among homebuyers that they would lose investment value. Tung abandoned the house building program. Work continued on projects that were underway, but after that, new housing construction came to a virtual halt. Donald then succeeded Tung as the chief executive in 2005. His administration maintained a restrictive policy toward land sales. The lack of land sales drove up housing prices. Does Hong Kong even have enough land to meet the housing demand? There are, only with extreme difficulty if the government is to develop them. First, the new towns. New towns have sprung up all over the new territories over the past few decades. There are now 9 new towns housing nearly 3.4 million people, but they already reach 85% of the housing capacity. The government wants to build even more new towns, but the plan very often triggers fierce local opposition. Here on abandoned farmland and wasteland is enough land to build housing for more than 675,000 residents. That's more than 233,000 homes. Many opponents voice outrage that the new town's expansion would serve to pump more cash into the city's already fat property developers. But it is the small house policy that the housing experts said needs an overhaul. This policy is a legacy of British colonial rule. It stipulates that adult male children of indigenous people shall receive a land grant upon which they may build a 3-story house on a 700 square feet footprint. Non-indigenous residents who suffer from unaffordable housing find this policy discriminatory, and it creates tensions within the community. Meanwhile, a portion of the indigenous people were reported to have sold their small houses in the private market, triggering criticism of the policy being abused. Housing is the city's thorniest social issue and perhaps the most difficult obstruction in the way of future prosperity of Hong Kong. Whatever solution there may be, it will demand determination and the courage to see it through. For a more in-depth look at the housing crisis, please check out this link.